Okay, so let's now have a look at multiplying complex numbers. So I want to express this in the form a plus bi, and we have a double set of brackets here that we can expand. One thing I want to draw your attention to is we know that I is the square root of negative 1. So we think about what would I squared be? Well, if we square something, we'll multiply it by itself, so it's the square root of negative 1 multiplied by the square root of negative 1. That would just give us an answer of negative 1. So we can use the fact that I squared is negative 1, and that will help us when we are doing these calculations. So let's expand these double brackets. So here, 2 times by the 3 would get me 6. 2 times by the minus 2i would get me minus 4i. Plus 3i multiplied by 3 will get us plus 9i. And then we have plus 3i minus 2i. That is going to get us minus 6i squared. So let's have a look at this minus 6i squared here. So with the minus 6, and if we think about I squared, that's negative 1. So actually we have this. So minus 6 times by minus 1, which would actually get us plus 6 in the end there. So if we were to write all that out, so we actually have a 6 plus a 6, which is 12. We have a minus 4i plus a 9i, which would get us 5i. So that would be 12 plus 5i. Number 2, we are doing 5 minus 3i squared. So we should know that that is just going to be in this form here, 5 minus 3i, brackets 5 minus 3i, we're just multiplying it by itself, so let's now just expand that out again. 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times minus 3 is minus 15i, minus 3i times by 5 is minus 15i, and then here we have a minus 3 times a minus 3, so that'll be positive 9i squared. So let's again evaluate what this is going to be here. So 9 is 9, I squared is negative 1, so that will actually change that sign and make it minus 9. So you have 25, take away 9, that will give me 16, and then the minus 15i minus another 15i will get us 30i, or negative 30i I should say. Okay, so now let's have a look at these questions here. So let's first of all turn the value of I to the power of 3. So that is I times I times I. So we can write that as I squared times by I. So we already know that I squared is negative 1. Because I is the root of negative 1, so I squared is just negative 1. So this I squared would become negative 1 times by I. That gives us a value of negative I. I to the 4. So that would be I times I times I times I. So you can see here we have basically two sets of I squared. I squared is negative 1. So that would be negative 1 multiplied by negative 1. And that would just get us positive 1. Because negative times by negative is going to make a positive. Then let's have a look at this one. This one might confuse us a bit. I to the power of 101. Now, I'm sure you don't want to write I times I times I 101 times. So, let's think about how we could approach this. Let's explore what happens when we keep multiplying I by itself. So we know that I by itself is the square root of negative 1. I squared, we know, is just negative 1. I to the 3, we just worked out, is negative I. And then I to the 4 is 1. Now, let's consider what's going to happen for I to the power of 5. Well, it's I to the power of 4, which is 1, times by another I. So that will give us the square root of negative 1. And then I to the power of 6, that's I to the power of 5, negative 1, times by another I, which will be negative 1. And we could carry on, so I to the power of negative 7, for example, so negative 1 times by an I is just going to be negative I. And hopefully we can see a pattern forming here. So if I show you this, so it goes root of negative 1, negative 1, negative I, 1. root of negative 1, I, and if we do I to the power of 8, we're going to do minus I multiplied by I again. So multiplied by the square root of negative 1, that is going to give us 1 again. So it's a pattern. So if we think about it, every power, which is a multiple of 4, is just going to be 1 again. So I to the power of 101, let's think of the closest multiple of 4 that we have there. Well, it's 100, isn't it? So I to the power of 101 is the same thing as I to the power of 100 times by another I. If it's a multiple of 4, the power, it's just going to become 1. And then times by the I, it's just going to become I. Then let's do 3I to the power of 5. So for this one, I recommend you splitting it up in terms of the 3 and the I. So let's split that up into 3 to the power of 5, and then multiplied by I to the power of 5. 3 to the power of 5 is 243. And then I to the power of 5, we know, is just going to be the square root of negative 1, which is just I. That should be a multiply, which is just I. So that whole thing becomes 243I. You can also find all these values using our calculator. So as long as your calculator is in complex mode, so that A plus BI there shows that we are in complex mode. So let's have a go then. So say if I wanted to do I to the power of 3, so I is right down here where the 0 is, so we're going to press Shift I, I'm going to do that to the power of 3, and that tells us it's minus I, which is what we got before. Let's do I to the power of 4, which should just give us 1. Let's do I to the power of 101. We get I, and let's do 3I to the power of 5. We get 243I. So you can do this on your calculator as well, but it is also important that you understand that, especially the repetition of the power of 4 with I.